Hello, this is Vexx, and welcome back to Tyranny. If you may recall, in our last video, we spoke with our companions, first Barrick and Lantry, about what happened while taking the Citadel of Ascension Hall, I should say. And if you also remember, Barrick was really not happy about the way we essentially betrayed the disfavored to do it. I went back after the last recording and chose the other options to see, but they all lead the exact same way. Barrick says we have his sword out of duty, but not his loyalty, because he is forever loyal to Graven Ash. Well, that's unfortunate, but at least we still have our walking suit of armor. In this video, we are going to go speak with Eb, our newest party member, who, if you may remember 2 videos ago, actually declared her loyalty to us, pretty much in exchange for her life. Well, let's go start speaking with Eb.
Salutations, Fatebinder. Or should I now call you Lord of Vendrian's Well? The Spire King? Prince of the suggestive vertical slab.
Oh, I kind of like Eb. Now, you'll notice we actually have a loyalty of 1 with Eb already. Actually, we're at loyalty 2 and over halfway to loyalty 3 with her. Now we could say Vexx will suffice, could just glare at her, or Fatebinder's fine. No need for other titles. I'm gonna go with Fatebinder's fine.
That is how I met you, so that's how it's gonna stick in my mind.
Makes sense.
So if I might ask, what is your plan now? The edict no longer looms overhead, and Kairos' conquest of the tiers seems to be slipping. What with the armies and civil war.
Yeah, kind of. Now, we've got a couple options. We could say, first order of business, I should speak with Tunon. We can say, I'm improvising. Any suggestions? The plan is to destroy the Scarlet Chorus. The disfavored Scarlet Chorus, all of the Overlord's minions will fall. Or I will crush the remaining local opposition and complete the conquest. Or finally, none of your concern. I'm kind of curious what'll happen if we say we're improvising.
My first suggestion would be to build a boat. Something durable, and take our chances on the high seas far from Kairos.
I don't like that idea myself.
I have a second and more practical suggestion. Look to the horizon and slightly up. By that I mean the other spires. We should see what's atop the others. Otherwise someone else might look first.
That's a good point. We can say, what do you know about the spires? Or, I don't suppose you've heard of others awakening the spires like I did. Or a third option, that's all I need to know. I'm curious what she knows about the spires, though.
Not nearly enough, apparently. To me, they've always been axioms of navigation. You can triangulate a lot of things with the sextant and a clear view to a spire or two.
Makes sense if they're really so tall.
We've long known the spires radiate strong magical fields. And all save the mountain spire connect to the old walls. So it's the sort of thing common folk know from afar, but avoid day to day.
I'd say the first order of business should be to go speak with Tunon, as he is technically our boss.
I would counsel you to do just that. I'm sure the events of Vendrian's Well are best explained from your mouth to Tunon's ears. Furthermore, I'd guess the Archon of Justice would want to know your take on the Archons and their divide.
I could say, continue on saying I want to destroy the chorus, or destroy all of Kairos' minions, or finally the local opposition. But I'm just going to go with that's all for now, because, well, I kind of don't want to destroy Kairos' armies. And although we've made the local opposition hate us, I'm pretty sure that'll make Eb like us a lot less.
Well, short of Tunon giving you orders on pain of death, you have the luxury of acting on your own volition. Though the Scarlet Chorus are likely to come for you.
Oh, guaranteed that.
Whatever you decide, I'm at your disposal.
Now we could say your assistance will be most helpful, thanks, or try anything duplicitous and we'll send you where... And you'll wish you were taken by Narat, or have a moment, let's speak further. I'm gonna be nice and say your assistance will be most thankful.
And
most
I'm
helpful,
thankful
thanks.
to not be a bloody pile of offal in Vendrian's well. Life under your banner will, I'm sure, prove most interesting.
Now we lost fear, which I don't think we had any to be honest, and gained loyalty. We're now, actually we gained a lot of loyalty for that. We're 15% almost into tier 3. We were just at 60 some percent into tier 2 before. Ooh, wow. I'm curious, do you got a moment? We need to talk.
What is it you need?
Now we could add her to the party straight from here. I don't want to do that. I kind of like our party as is. We should discuss matters at hand.
I'm still amazed we survived the Edict of Execution. The Chorus may outnumber us, and the disfavored seem to grow more aggressive every passing span. But we've endured our neap days. The struggle now turns in our favor.
What's a neat day? I'm gonna guess it means, like, relaxation. I don't know. Let's talk about something else.
What is it you need?
I got some questions for
Ask
you.
away.
Let's speak of magic.
You know, I normally charge for this, but for you...
That sounded suggestive. Eb smiles, awaiting your query. Let's work our way down. What can you tell me about your magical traditions?
Now, you know that's a very personal question. The knowledge I have is a centuries-old gift from the Archon of Tides. I would sooner discard my life than the sanctity of that gift. I will speak in generalities only.
Ask. Worst I can do is not tell you. We've got a whole bunch of options here. Wow. Tell me about how you influence Tirada's grave. Trade secret, not one I'm going to talk about. The School of Tides dies with me, and so too will this. And don't bother trying to change my mind on this matter. It'll just get ugly quick. Tell me how you influence ice, mist, and other forms of water. With years of training. Now look, most of the secrets have already been stolen ages ago by the sages. Doesn't mean I'm going to tell you just because the secret's already out, but it means you can go ask someone else if you feel so entitled to do so. And before you ask, I've learned plenty from knowledge stolen from the sages. But no, I don't know how to do what Eb does, magically or otherwise. Lantry, you old coot. Now, let's see if she can teach us what she knows. I suppose I am capable of it, but no. The secret of the Archon of Tides die with me. Ooh, she's not going to teach us any of her magic. Oh, we can command her to teach us what she knows. I'm kind of curious, because she does know some magic, which we can learn, I know from experience. So I'm going to command her to teach us what she knows. Oh, we gained fear for that. Understandable. How much fear? Oh, 81%. Wow. You can order me into battle. You can order me into a battle I can't win, and I'll follow your order to my death. But I'm taking what I know with me to the end. Now, we don't have the fear or loyalty high enough to get her to come out with that, to teach us. We can ask what's its worth to you, but if something happens to you, who will preserve your school's teachings? I'm going to try that one. Oh, I don't know. The Archon of not my problem. This is all I have left, and that makes me special. Preserving the knowledge for the coxswain about to inherit the tiers is not my agenda. See if we can bribe her. Landry's still beating heart, throwing a charm bracelet made of his beard, and now we're talking. Look, I'm all for the advancement of knowledge, but this is absurd. I'd settle for Kairos' severed head. Sure, bring me that. Silver platter optional. And I'll teach you everything I know about my magic, and maybe even some of what I know about tying knots. Well, we can't do anything for this yet, but if we manage to get her loyalty up to 4, we can learn her magic. I gotta remember that. So, what are your philosophies? What are the philosophical teachings of your magic? That's a question I can answer. It would surprise you little to learn that we see all things, people, wars, seasons, to be cynical, waxing and waning through the various forms like the tides and the light of Taratus' grave. What's this light of Taratus' grave? Taratus, the planet, has 2 satellites visible to the naked eye: the tide-locked Taratus grave and the rapidly orbiting interloper. Scholars have long studied the effects of these 2 moons on the ocean currents, and a great deal of folklore concerns the origins of the moons. A common belief in Kairos' empire is that Taratus' grave will finally set on the bottom when Kairos' rule ends. Huh. The mind is limited. We're born and spend our lives dodging death, and we expect all stories to have a beginning and an end. We assume all things and stop just like us. In truth, all things are circles. Some by matter of minutes, other by manners of years or lifetimes. That's an interesting way of looking at it. In the School of Tides, we appreciate the patterns of all sorts. Most are called to the depths, others find their interest skybound. Many still find the tides of human emotion and political fortunes far more intriguing than inanimate tides found in the orbits of the ocean and oceans. From what archon do the Tidecasters draw upon their magic? The first Tidecasters were given the gift of magic by our school's founder, Oscillate Jade, Archon of Tides. Though she was not of Kairos' ilk, she was as powerful as any Archon, and from her name and legacy we can mimic the moon's pull in the seas and change the currents. And it's from her that we have the spells to turn the moon's pleasant hues into the baleful ray of searing grave light. In all these years I have not grown tired of the thrill of power. It's a rush of carnal humors every time. I'm guessing you can tell me more than I ever wanted to know about the moons. Oh, you'd be right. My magic is generally associated with the moon Taratus' grave. But you have to know where the interloper is in the sky when mucking about with the mystic forces. Now we could say Taratus' grave is the big one, right? Tell me about it. Or interloper is the one that moves in the sky, if I remember the lessons correctly. Oh, we can use our lore to say, do you control water, or do you mimic the tidal effects the moons have on water? Oh, I'm going to go with that one. That'll probably impress her. A little bit. Maybe. Both, actually. I'm amused you've been keen on the difference. Our spells of ice and mist affect water directly, but are of limited volume. Displacing your own body weight in water is a no means feat. But if I were to move on an ocean current, I'd drive myself nuts moving water in front of a boat a little at a time. That's where I'd use a cantrip to stimulate tidal pull. Oh, she can go into full-on talk about the actual moons. Let's ask about them just for completionist sake, right? Taratus' grave is the big one. Tell me about it. Taratus' grave is fixed in the sky, always overhead, day and night. It was first named by folks living far to the east. They'd look to the west and see the moon like a permanent hill on the horizon, a grave where the sun dies each evening. Oh, it's poetic. That's how the other folks saw it. If you live in the western part of the world, Taratus Grave is overhead all the time. That means that day and night it's reflecting the sun's rays. And if you know what you're doing, it doesn't just reflect, it magnifies. Ooh. Interloper is the one that moves in the sky, if I remember correctly. Exactly. Interloper orbits Taratus at a steady clip, and its orbit sometimes crosses in front of Taratus' grave, leading to a mystical calamity if you don't know what you're doing. Have you heard anything from the Tidecasters that left before the war? No, and I don't like entertaining the hope. Those cowards are all gone. If they didn't die at sea, they are dead to me. I reserve the right to be pleasantly surprised if they come back, eager to fight the good fight, but I'm not holding my breath. All the brave Tidecasters died, present company accepted. I think that's supposed to be present company excluded. Alright, let's talk about something else.
I normally charge for this, but for you...
Do you know anything of the magic of the Archons? Enough to know that I'm out of my element. That is to say, I've studied the many Archons a great deal, and I have a great number of hypotheses and conjectures, but, well, I'm no expert yet. And like most who have invoked the Archons at times past to work magic, I do wonder what difference of birth or experience gives one the magical potential to be an Archon. Most of my studies have been into the question of origins of form. It's known we can emulate the Archons, the magic of Archons that came before us, but is it possible to tap into the magic of the Archons yet to be? So far, the answer seems to be no. She looks to the ground with a rumpled smirk. Interesting. What do you know about the old walls and the spires? Not enough. Never enough. Eb smiles, twisting her staff in her hands. As a child, I was terrified of the old walls. I think that's true of most folk. Now that I can art grave light with a wiggle of my fingers, well, I think when I'm a shriveled old hag, dying the old walls would be a great way to go. What can you tell me about the Bane? What I know is barely large enough for a master it's largely taken from Master Cambril's work and some near fatal experience venturing close to the old walls. As best I understand it, the Banes are bits of magical energy that have an extended life of their own. I'm of the belief that they nest or reproduce in the old walls, the only place you regularly find them. Our magic attracts the Bane. The magic I know to be. That much I know to be true firsthand. Again, this is personal theory, but I'm guessing they eat or drink magic, so our spells are invitations to dine. Oh.
Ask away.
Now that we're done talking about magic as a whole, let's ask about her. What would you like to know? Tell me about your name. Well, I was born Hazen Leventia, but for most of my life, and I suppose all the days after, I'm known and will be known as Eb, TIdecaster Eb, for those trying to be obsquicious. I don't know. I've also probably used a bunch of aliases that are going to haunt me at some point. Hazen, didn't realize you were nobility. I know, I dress and cook my own food, so misleading. Mother was a magistrate of Ardent, father was admiralty. It's mostly meaningless, though. Our lands are now the overlords. How'd you get the nickname Eb? It's one of those not especially funny jokes that stuck long past its season. I wrote the word Eb incorrectly on a written examination. Master Folvax started calling me Eb from then on. He claimed it fit me, said I was a cynical little shit that always sees the ebb, never the flow. Did you always want to be a Tidecaster? So when I was a little girl, what I really wanted to be was a Marine. The burly bitch at the prow of a tiresome of a tremaine. First to crack some skulls when the ship's rammed. You know, an honest living. Fortunately, the school sought me out before I got myself killed at sea. School of Tides was looking for new blood, and my father was an admiral of Haven. So the school wanted me for the political connections. I got to spend my first couple years proving I actually belong with Tidecasters. That was fun. What did you do in the years before the war? My husband was born in Apex, and he left his prosperous lands to be with me. So when the nest was empty, it seemed right to leave the homeland and see his side of the tears. We had a year and a bit to ourselves before the war upturned things. We saw all of Apex. I took him along all my old sailing routes around the Five Wives of Sumter. Ah, those were good times. Then came the war, and I learned I would be the one of the last tiersmen to live free of Kairos. Ever since then, I think Oathbreaker was technically being my chosen profession. Well, let's ask her about her family. And we got, because of that, because we have loyalty, well, 3, now we can go on that. Trying to solve old wounds? They're all gone, but if you really want to know, I had a husband, 3 kids, siblings I didn't hate. Every family has its troubles. I was lucky that awkward and stilted dinner banter was the worst of it. Now let's ask him about her. Ask her about her husband. Palox Adodonis. I was married in 410. Alden was a flaxman of the veteran guard back before they were starving partisans, but I saw him as a mere carpenter. Woodworking was just a hobby of his, but my fondest memories are of him trying to shape something, and me making stupid jokes about the firmness of his materials. What became of him? He perished at the gates of judgment. I saw him die. I don't wish to discuss it. Just know I've made my peace with it, and I'm glad I was with him on the field of battle when his time came. I miss him, but it might have been for the best. Though he was only a few years older than me, my studies left me. Always a bit younger than him, the difference grew with time. Aldous was slowing down figured the gate half figured the gates of judgment would be his last battle. If anything, he got exactly the death he wanted. So in a sense, I am very happy for him. Tell me about your children. There were the twins, Dismer and Lorma, then my youngest son, Akamis. Aldous wanted more, but I was nearing the end of my trials at the School of Tides, and dueling with lethal magics is a terrible idea when with child. Yeah, I can see that. Denevor and Lorma followed my husband's trade and took to the flax. Aquinas liked the harp more than people. Can't blame him one bit. I made sure my children could read, and I'm dad proud of that fact. Probably the only thing I did right. What are the twins? They died at the gates of judgment, or at least Denver did. Run through by a disfavored spear. Lorna was at the battle, but I don't know what became of her. My fear has been she was recruited by the Scarlet Chorus. Perhaps she has a new name, if she's still alive. Same thing as before. What became of your youngest? Without Denver Lord Aquinas, well, he never quite. He took his own life in 430. Eb shrugs, her eyes glancing far away. I should have put him on a tremaine and shoved him to the high seas, he did not ask for birth, nor did I prepare him for the bitterness that life would offer. I'm very sorry for your loss, Eb. Spare me the sorrow. We've all lost family, Kairos. I just lost two in one battle, but even then, I'm hardly unique. Let's change the subject. What about the rest of your family? My family's Haven folk through and through. My mother prided herself on being descended from Hazen Raband, one of the founding magistrates of the city of Ardent. She looks to the side, mouth twisting in thought. Sad thing is, they died during the conquest, but that's not how I lost contact. I lost contact because magic and travel became my life. Had plenty of time to get to know them as an adult, but I simply missed it. But that's one's my fault. I can't rightly blame Kairos for everything. Not sure I believe any of this. You don't seem all that troubled.
Well, I'm an accomplished liar, but I've no need to spin a tale about any of this. My husband, most of my kids, my parents. Kairos' thugs took them all. If I don't seem broken up, it's because I'm not. I don't feel such things anymore.
I can say that sounds a bit heartless, or you can use our lore. You sign your magic with a great deal of anger. I'm gonna go with that one.
I like to think of it more as well-refined rage. But amusing you noticed it all the same. Hate is akin to an acid, a poison of the heart that consumes most from within. And like any fluid, if you know how to hold it, you can apply it. It's a trick of the trade, I suppose. One's surges and dry spells of emotion are no different than the rhythms of the waves. There's a shared logic to taming both. Sadness, mania, rage. I suppose I have these things, but they're just humors in the blood to be pushed, needed, and restrained as the situation demands.
That's a little dark. Well, let's ask her how she fell in with the Veteran Guard. What does it matter now that they're gone? You seemed last hope for the Tears. And ninny shitting fuck of a chance is still more than no chance at all.
Ask away.
But we still got lots. I have questions about the people of the Tears.
We all know how to swim, and we all know how to fight. Most Northmen are lucky to make half that boast. What would you like to know?
I'm curious about the people of the Tears. I think you'll find each of us thinks themselves a child of Haven, as in my case, or a child of Azure, a child of Apex, or what have you. But I suppose we Tearsmen have our shared customs. The most treasured of these customs used to be the pride of being free of Kairos' rule. Do you have any particular questions? When were the Tears settled? Human settlers arrived over 400 years ago, displaced from a war between what are now Kairos' realms of Treven and Fertile Sands. A flotilla of barely seaworthy rigs headed west across the high seas. Tearsmen will sometimes speak of the Five Wives. We use it to refer both to the first 5 settlements when the colonists made landfall, as well as the first matriarchs that went on to found the ruling dynasties of the Tears. Of course, I'm leaving out the matter that's of the builders of the Old Walls. Who knows when they lived here and why they're gone, but the Old Walls just didn't fall out of the sky. No kidding. Why don't you man your own land or women ship? Why don't men own land or women ships? For centuries it has been our way that men own the ships, but the women own the harbors. Our customs don't truly prevent ownership. They limit inheritance. Land passed to daughters, then sisters, then mothers and aunts. Ships passed to sons, then brothers, then fathers and uncles. It seems strange to outsiders, but it makes sense to me. Men are blessed with wanderlust, women with a sense of the permanent. Likewise, the captain of a ship can pause to carry a child, and the man grows restless if left in place. In truth, the custom varies from place to place. You'll find men with enough wealth own land, and women with enough sway own ships. As is often the case, the nobles pick and choose their traditions. Why didn't the younger realms stand united against Kairos? If you're trying to rub Are you trying to rub it in? Yes, the younger realms were divided. One were defeated one at a time by the invaders. Maybe it was. Maybe if I was queen of the Tears, that wouldn't have happened. We could ask her. Well, then, what would Queen Eb have done? I kind of like that. I'm not even reading the others. We gained loyalty for that. The reason I keep looking is because we needed tier 4 loyalty to learn her magic. I would have taken the threat seriously the moment the troops that start marching to the gates stopped. I would have taken the threat seriously the moment troops were spotted marching at the gates of judgment. Am I the only person whose mother mentioned that Kairos was a real threat? Opportunity that's what killed us. Haven wanted to watch the bastard tier fall. Apex was hoping Haven would fall. Azure wanted Stalwart to be attacked first. Every realm of the tiers had some interest in watching their neighbors fall first. So we all held back our support until a year or so into the war. Too fucking late by then. Squabbling idiots. Tiersmen live with a greater number of beastmen. What's that like? The beastmen of the tiers are hardier and smarter than their kin elsewhere, and fortunately we have lived together in relative harmony for some time. Make no mistake, life is difficult for most beastmen in the tiers, compared to, say, how they are treated in the Northern Empire. I would think we tiersmen are a bit more modern and forward-thinking, even just a bit. But I suppose I also take an overly optimistic view of our beastly cousins. I find their clumsy honesty endearing, and while no human will say nice things about my cooking, no beastman has ever said anything mean about the worst of my dishes. Sounds like she is a total 5-star chef, doesn't it? What are the major resistors to Kairos' rule?
Aside from the ones you slew, well, the Vendrian Guard were the most staunch opponents of Kairos. With their passing, the Overlord's rule is absolute. Well, aside from the local Archons being in a state of civil war. Was there a particular group you wish to discuss?
We can go on and on about everything, it seems. What about the Unbroken?
The Unbroken is the name of the military of the now fallen realm of Stalwart. Every citizen of Stalwart was trained to fight, and all were expected to answer the rallying cry of the Regents, the ruling small council of the realm. A decade ago, Stalwart was the ass end of jokes tiersmen would tell each other. The people of Stalwart are obnoxiously proud of a long history of being invaded, but never losing. The disfavored put an end to their vaunted record of victory. The Unbroken still persist, albeit marginally so. The disfavored withdrew after the Edict of Storms began shredding the landscape. Their holdfast of Sentinel Stand Keep was never taken, and the citizen army, though scattered, could still be rallied.
What about the Stonestalker tribe?
Kairos' war was disastrous to the human realm of Azure, but a stroke of good luck for the numerous beastmen that toiled in Azure's endless wheat fields. With the masters all dead, the serfs have been set free. The Stonestalkers are a tribe born from these newly freed beasts. I imagine they would never bow to Kairos or the Archons. Too many generations have been enslaved. I'd wager anything they'll die before they ever bow. Beastmen understand strength and leadership, but it's always in the concrete sense. I can't pretend to know how they think, but I could never imagine them accepting an absent Prima. A distant ruler they can't see or smell seems a bit too abstract.
Prima is kind of like a alpha in our world, so to speak. Tell me about the Bronze Brotherhood.
The Bronze Brotherhood is one of the most feared and famous of the Free City mercenary companies. They serve the highest bidder, and during the war, that was Kairos. Most of the Brotherhood perished in the war, but a handful, the crew hired to work at Lethian's Crossing. They got to babysit the Forge-bound and survived the last few years with minor losses. The band is too small to be a serious threat to the disfavored or the chorus, but they are scourge-worshipping berserks that will adopt any enemy for the right price. Maybe even Kairos.
Are there any other remnants of the Younger Realms that could still rise against Kairos?
Several sages came to our aid during the Second Battle of Vendrian's Well. I at first thought they meant to kill me, but instead they put their lives on the line for us. They spoke of others in their guild braving the Edict of Fire to salvage lore from the burning library. though I may find them untrustworthy. It must be said that the sages have a certain fearlessness toward the Overlord. Perhaps that could be kindled further. Historically speaking, an alliance with the School of Ink and Quill is just asking to have your efforts stolen and your goals undermined. Mark my words, some things never change.
Think of the sages as a resource. In that sense, we are fools not to use them. You can go, would you rather they be our enemies? Or, your concern is noted, but irrelevant. If the sages will obey me, I will work with them. I kind of like that option.
Whatever. If you want to ignore my advice, that's fine. I'm taking over the Spire when you die, so keep up that naivete for me.
Gain some loyalty with Landry and a bit of fear with Eb for that one. Let's change subject. What can you tell me about the different nations of the Tiers? Before Kairos came, the Tiers were the younger realms, the Bastard Tier and the Free Cities, and about in that order of prominence. We all trace our roots back to the Five Wives, though sometimes a bit of our ancestral shoreline seems all we have in common. Let's ask about the younger realms. Haven, Azure, Apex, and Stalwart have been four major forces of the Tiers for the last 4 centuries. A few other dynasties have tried their hand, but all eventually defeated or absorbed into the 4 that we know today. Not sure when the term younger came into fashion, but it has always been a term of humble contrast. Just look at the old walls. Someone was here before us and built them. Don't know really anything about them, but it stands reason that they used to be an older realm that did all the construction. Before Kairos came, the Tiers were the younger realms. We already read that. Tell me about the Bastard Tier. It's the northernmost of the Tiers and choke point in the Northern Empire. It's been a hub of trade for centuries, and a long line of merchant families and private armies have kept the realm largely lawless. Though many of us used to joke that the Bastard City being sacked by rabid dogs, Tunan's capture of the city was a terrible blow to the morale of the Tiersmen. We knew that day Kairos was more than just a fun story to scare kids. What about the free cities? There's little free about the free cities, save for the independence from the younger realms. They're not physically adjacent, but rather politically allied by their shared hatred of the other realms. Most of the free cities were defeated with little effort by Kairos' forces. Way I heard it, Narat just had to have agents hire up the mercenaries and order them to simply be elsewhere when the armies of the Overlord arrived. And that's all there, that's all there.
Ask away.
Oh, we still have 1, 2, 3, at least 3 other options. Oh wow, this is definitely going to be a longer video. What can you tell me about the Archons and the Tiers?
Not entirely sure. Which is to say, there was a time I studied my enemy in great detail, but I've recently come to learn that much of my information was little more than lies and misdirection.
Now we can actually go over each of the Archons here. What about the voices? The Archon of Secrets lives up to his name. If he weren't so loathsome of a beast, I'd half admire the mystery of his mastery of the magical arts. They say he knows all the sigils lost to history, but I've also heard it said that all the stolen knowledge is why he speaks in his different voices. But in truth, I'm learning that most of what I know is... we already read that. Oh wait, no we didn't. I'm learning most of what I know is just lies and misdirection, though I guess he'd be a poor Archon of Secrets if I had my facts straight. What do you know about Graven Ash? Before the conquest, I assumed Graven Ash, a harmless old man, an Archon in name only, past his prime. I could not have been more wrong. Many have underestimated the great general by his age. Few of them have made the mistake twice. Ash is a remarkable general. He's led his tiny band of disfavored on a nearly unstoppable rampage of the Tiers, and he does not seem to win his wars with obvious displays of mystic powers, but with an old-fashioned leadership. and good soldiers. A year or so back, under a blue flag talk with a commander, I was told that the Archon knows the name of every soldier under his command, living and dead. The way that his favorites speak of Ash, you'd think he raised each of them from the cradle. What do you know about Karn? Enough. She inhaled sharply, folding her arms with a scowl. I can ask why the hostility. There's clearly a story here. I'd like to hear it. I kind of want to hear the story. A few years back, the remaining elder Tidecasters met Karn in battle. Tall as 10 men, all but invincible, and I thought nothing could stop us if we stood together. Whatever, it's ancient history. I'm glad you lived through it all. So everyone died except you? Colored me surprised. Or let's change the subject. I'm glad she made it through. We gained more loyalty. Oh, we're still not at tier 4. I'm not, and I don't need your pity. Let us speak of other things. Yeah, I think that was loyalty. What do you know about Siren? I'm sure that there may be younger Archons in the historical records, but Siren is certainly an unusually powerful child. It's said half of the Scarlet Chorus was recruited by Siren's persuasive song, and I'd not doubt it. I also know the voices of Narat put a shackle on her power, probably feared she'd become the favorite of the rabble. The shackle. I wonder if that's her that helmet that she tried to get us to remove. Probably. What do you know about Arcane Society?
I know a great deal of the mages of the tiers, or at least their history. Most are dead now. I know a little less about the guilds sworn to Kairos' Archons, but I try to make an effort to know my opposition.
Let's ask her about the Earthshakers, the ones that were sworn to Karn. The Earthshakers are a disciple of Karn, Archon of Stone, and they share their master's command of tremors and soil. They also share Karn's aloof, brooding temperament. From what I gather, the Earthshakers served as favored, but the relationship has been deeply stained by Karn's fall from grace. I could imagine there's the fear Karn shared with them something subversive or traitorous. What about the Blood Chanters? The Blood Chanters are the voices of Narat's cabal of mages. Their magic is taken from the sigil of Siren, and from techniques stolen from the School of Wild Wrath, namely their magic of fire as learned from Thousand Embers, Archon of Fire. They barely qualified as a proper school or guild. Most of them are barely literate, and I bet most of them didn't learn a damn thing. They just had their knowledge shoved into their heads by Narat. Oh, that's definitely pleasant. They've all the brilliant buffoonery of the chorus, but with the magic to make their bloodlust contagious. Their only redeeming feature. Guess they make the sages seem not half bad. She really does not like these sages. What can you tell me of the Forgebound? The Forgebound have an unusual sort of magic. They specialize in slow, painstaking rituals that do not produce the dazzling blasts of magic and shards of flying ice like my own magic. Instead, their spells render them immune to the fires of the forge, and at once with their tools of the trade. I admit a bit of fascination with the guild. I much prefer the power and brutality of my own magic, but if I lived in a calmer, wiser time, there could be a great satisfaction in using magic to become a master of one's craft. This might be a bit of a contentious topic, but can you tell me about the School of Ink and Quill? Behind the spell Tidecasters, the sages of the School of Ink and Quill are the second oldest arcane institution in the tiers. We go back a ways, but there's a lot of bad blood. If I'm being objective, the sages claim to be the scholars' interest in collecting, archiving, and preserving lore from all humanity. They're quite keen to gather lore, but in no sense do they seek to share their knowledge with the other tiersmen. Many of our secrets have been pilfered by the sages' spies over the centuries, and we're not alone. The sages have the secrets of many other guilds. Their generation Their generations of theft have made them versatile and dangerous. What can you tell me about your own school, the School of Tides? Our patron, Auklet Jade, Archon of Tides, is as old as settlers of the Five Wives, and for nearly 5 centuries we were masters of the coasts and the rivers. These days it's a school of one. You're looking at her. She she thumps her chest with a bemused smirk. Why didn't your Archon fight in the war? About a year or so before the troops arrived in the Bastard Tier, Auklet Jade proclaimed the age of the Tiers was over and said she'd depart southwest into unknown, unending ocean rather than face Kairos. Oh, interesting. Most of my guildmates went along, choosing to risk the endless high seas rather than risk battle. A few of us, the militants, as our peaceful brethren dubbed us, chose to stand and fight. To my knowledge, I'm the last of those who decided to stand and fight. I'm curious. Let's continue on asking her about her own guild. What was your school like before the war? There was a time when the Tidecasters were the most powerful guild of the tiers. The Kingdom of Haven accepted us as defenders of sea trade, and noble houses gave us peace and quiet in exchange for teaching their sons and daughters magic, writing, and navigation. Though the other schools coveted our knowledge, they feared our wrath. Between our destructive magic and our Archon patron, others knew that attacking us meant suicide. How did your school fail? The Archon Karn issued a challenge, and Master Florix, Hargiver, and Carbon leapt at the chance. I told them it was a hopeless clash. I think they were ready to die. As the youngest Tidecaster still in the tiers, I executed the better part of valor and went into hiding. But then my sense of shame kicked in, and, well, that's about when I fell in with the Vedrian Guard. So the school is as old as the Five Wives? By all accounts, Auklet Jade was among the initial settlers that made landfall in the tiers before Kairos first cast an edict. Though she's a bit old and stooped, she looked amazing for nearly 500.
I know a great deal of the mages of the
I can
tiers,
kind of
or at
gather
least their
that.
history. Most are dead now. I know a little less about the guilds sworn to Kairos' archons, but I try to make an effort to know my opposition.
What are the other schools and guilds of the tiers? There have been several to crop up and wither across the centuries. The Cutters Guild took their healing magic north centuries ago. The School of Flowering Winter always limped along as an inconsequential grass group of gardeners. Most of the schools in the tiers fizzled out early, slain by suspicious neighbors, or subverted and destroyed by one of the big three schools.
Ask away.
We can actually ask about our traveling companions real quick. Let's try that. She nods, waiting for you to follow up. What do you make of Barrick?
My one concern with Barrick is that he's still loyal to Graven Ash and not to you. Barrick seems steadfast, faithful, and dependable. But if it comes down to you versus Graven Ash, therein lies the test.
If it weren't a tactical asset, it'd be fun to try and pry him out of that suit of armor. Curious to see if his misdirection is as strong, firm, and taut as I'd imagine it to be. Curious to see if his midsection is as strong, firm, and taut as I imagine it should be. Oh, the cougar. What about verse?
We should consider ourselves fortunate that one of the most deadly members of the Scarlet Furies considers you a suitable gang leader. That said, I think her involvement with you is entirely suspect. I would wager good money the voices of Neratis listening through her, or perhaps seeing what she sees.
And possibly. Oh, I have a feeling this is not going to be good, but what's your take on Lantry?
Probably the only word thief I haven't wanted to dismember. Him? I'd merely flay with an ice knife.
Oh, pleasant. The Wandering Scholar thing seems an act. It's always an act with the sages. Always pretending to know less than they really do. I'm sure he's got 1,000 reasons why he's not like them, or more trustworthy than the rest, but I know his type, and I don't trust him. Oh, that's high praise coming from you. I'm going to take this staff and repeatedly jam it into your backside until you prolapse. Oh, and just like that, balance is restored to all known existence. You had me worried there.
Ask away. What is it you need?
And that's all we have with Eb. Fortunately, we are not. Actually, let's see.
Ask away.
If
You know, I normally charge for this, but for you...
Magical
Now, you know that's a very
Dang, we need Fear 3, and we're only 62% towards Tier 3. And we don't have Loyalty 4, as we're only halfway, just under halfway through Tier 3. So,
Ask away.
unfortunately, that is all we have with her right now. We could bring her along and maybe get some extra bonuses with her through discussions. But as this video's been going on for nearly an hour, I won't continue with the game at this point. I will end the video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys have a great day.